Right now, child tax credits are in the mail, how much money parents can expect, and a program at A&M helping students break down barriers, how you can get involved. Happening now, the IRS sending out money for the child tax credit. Good morning, I'm Joey Horta. Thanks for joining us today. The American Rescue Plan increases the child tax credit for dependents under the age of 16 from $2,000 to $3,000, then jumps to $3,600 for those under 6. Monthly payments will continue through the end of this year, and the child tax credit won't be free money for everybody, though. You could end up being taxed for it. ALGAE Achieve is an opportunity here for young adults with disabilities to immerse themselves in their college experience. Animals in Society is a hands-on class teaching students how to take care of animals while also giving them confidence. Dr. James Herman saw a need and bridged the gap by normalizing the idea that people with disabilities can successfully work in this industry.
Opportunities for the students in the ALGAE Achieve program to work with a veterinary technician, to work in an animal-related industry, and so we're working on building those relationships.
ALGAE Achieve students are combined with undergraduates, giving them the chance to learn from one another. ALGAE Achieve also offers individual support from fellow Texas A&M students who volunteer. They provide lunch and dinner partners, academic tutors, wellness partners, and daily planners. To join the team, just send an email to algaeachievemates@gmail.com. Time for a check on the weather now with meteorologist Josh Johns.
Yeah, and we're talking about the chance of showers and thunderstorms once again today, although you can't see them on the Exco Eagle Eye Bryan College Station at this time. Temperature sitting at 82 degrees. That dew point's up there, though, 76, so it already feels like 90. Going to be feeling like 102 to 103 later on this afternoon, at least until that cooler air can arrive from the sea breeze, bringing that shower and thunderstorm chance. 82 in Bryan, 83 in College Station at this time. Radar's fairly quiet right now, but notice the south-north orientation of those clouds. That's going to be pulling anything that's sitting down here towards Houston our way. You can already see some of those trying to get going down there towards El Campo. We're going to be watching that activity try to work through the north as we go through the afternoon. Now, it's not a great chance, but a 20 to 30% chance, and that's kind of what we had yesterday, too. So we'll be watching for these to move through because they could have some heavy downpours within them, some gusty winds, and you'll also get a nice little cool down as it works through later on this afternoon with those southeast breezes moving in. Now, I think the better chance for the heavier stuff is going to be east of Highway 6 and then out over East Texas, but we'll track it through the afternoon for you. Then the clouds hold on into the overnight hours, and tomorrow we do it all over again with any of that activity trying to work from south to north, bringing some of that heavy rain potential with it as well. Saturday, we'll have to watch it too because there's just going to be so much moisture that just will not move. You can see extended future track keeping that activity around. Watch what happens as we go past the weekend, though. Now looking like a cold front's going to come in from the north, and that cold front arriving in here around Monday or Tuesday, putting on the brakes as it arrives in the Brazos Valley. That means we're going to keep multiple rain chances around going through the first part of next week, so we don't get to put away the umbrella anytime soon. Highs today get into the lower 90s. Keep in mind the humidity will be around, so it's going to feel like the triple digits. 91 today, 92 tomorrow, 20 to 30% chance of rain, 20% chance on Saturday, mid-90s Saturday and Sunday. Here come the better rain chances for Tuesday and Wednesday, and temperatures could be dipping down into the upper 80s and lower 90s for highs.
Millions of families with children will see more money in their bank accounts today as part of the newly expanded child tax credit. Eligible families will get up to $250 or $300 monthly for each child, depending on their age. The payments are part of the nearly $2 trillion coronavirus relief package passed in March. The child tax credit is scheduled to run each month through December, but President Joe Biden wants to extend the payments past the end of the year. In a sign the pandemic is far from over, COVID cases and deaths are rising once again. The World Health Organization reported more than 55,000 deaths worldwide last week. That's up 3% from the week before, after 9 consecutive weeks of decline. New daily infections in the U.S. have doubled in the last 2 weeks to an average of about 24,000 per day. Health officials blame the increase on the highly contagious Delta variant and the number of people still not vaccinated.
If you were on the fence about whether vaccination was going to help you, listen to those numbers. Unvaccinated people going into hospital and dying, vaccinated people essentially not.
Johnson & Johnson has issued a recall for its aerosol sunscreen products. The company says some samples of the products contain low levels of benzene. Benzene is classified as a human carcinogen. The company says it's voluntarily pulling the sunscreen out of an abundance of caution. If you have these sunscreens, you should stop using them. Customers can contact Johnson & Johnson customer care line for a refund. A judge ruled Britney Spears can hire her own attorney, which is considered a big step in her fight to end the 13-year conservatorship. The singer chose former federal prosecutor Matthew Rosengart. He has represented other high-profile stars. During her testimony, Spears stated she wants the conservatorship to end and wants her father charged with conservatorship abuse.
During the hot days of summer, there's nothing like spending time near a cool, refreshing lake. But there's a potential danger lurking there: toxic blue-green algae. Health officials know humans and pets should avoid coming into contact with that algae. But what happens if you breathe in the air nearby? There's now an effort underway to figure that out. Inside this air-conditioned lab,
So I'm going to turn on a pump that'll push air through.
floats a summer scourge.
They've been around, we think, 3.5 billion years.
These ancient organisms are toxic blue-green algae, also known as cyanobacteria.
And you can see the clouds of the cyanobacteria moving around in there.
Dr. Barry Rosen is a professor at the Water School at Florida Gulf Coast University. He's one of the preeminent experts in blue-green algae.
We just took our study to the next level.
That study is looking to figure out what happens when blue-green algae goes airborne, and this specially designed machine may hold some answers.
This is an artificial lung in many senses.
Using air to move the water around, filters in this machine capture airborne toxic blue-green algae particles, similar to how our lungs would if we breathed it in.
We know that it probably gets into our nasal passages. How much gets into our lungs? Is it a concentration to be concerned of? Because we find it pretty much everywhere.
That's anywhere freshwater bodies meet pollution from agricultural and development runoff. Coupled with summer's high temperatures, blue-green algae can rapidly grow.
They like warm water. They start making more of each other in warm water, and so that's a concern we have looking forward with a warming planet, is that some of these blue-green algae blooms might be more common than they were in the past.
And potentially exposing more people to more blue-green algae. Just in the past month, blue-green algae blooms have taken hold not just in Florida, but in lakes in Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Ohio, and New York, among others.
A lot of these algal blooms are actually indicators that there's something wrong with the environment, and we're the people that are ultimately responsible for doing that.
And the toxins are potentially dangerous.
Well, the concentration that can harm you is very, very low. They're very potent natural toxins. But the aerosols we know very little about, and we're working on that very diligently.
In an effort to keep everyone safe.
We need to solve that piece of the puzzle.
In Fort Myers, Florida, I'm Maya Rodriguez.
Months after getting it in February, Jeffrey Forbes has a persistent cough and at times trouble catching his breath.
This is great compared to 6 to 8 weeks ago. I wouldn't have walked from the parking lot here.
Another problem he says he's experiencing is a strange smell.
Pretty early on, I was driving my wife and my son crazy because I kept wondering what was burning on the stove in the house. I'm like, something's burning. Like, nothing's even on the stove. It's not turned on. There's nothing there.
A consistent burning smell that comes and goes with intensity.
3 weeks in, I started waking up at night thinking the house was on fire because I would smell burning. And that would 3-4 times a week or more would wake me up because it was so strong.
He's a long hauler. That's when people have a wide range of long-lasting effects from COVID. Some can have fatigue, shortness of breath, chest pain, and issues with their sense of smell.
Sometimes they lose smell altogether. That's been pretty well recorded. And then there's also another type where they actually smell something completely different from what they thought they were going to smell.
Dr. Shin Chow treats long hauler patients.
Some patients have been experiencing it for, a couple months, some about a half a year, some even longer.
Right now, he's seeing about 100 long hauler patients at a clinic here at the Sentara Heart Hospital.
We know that this is kind of a frustrating thing because it's new, and two, there's no definitive answer to any of this as of right now.
He says only a few of his patients have issues with smell, and the medical community is trying to figure out why this is happening. For Jeffrey, his long hauler symptoms have made life more difficult, but he says he's getting used to it and continues to get treated in hopes of eventually getting back to his normal self.
We've heard about the Great Resignation and the Great Reshuffling of the workforce, but how are you supposed to reimagine yourself and your career? Experts are on the sidelines watching as America reinvents the way we work. No matter which way you phrase it, tsunami of resignations, great reshuffle, great resignation, the normal workplace is no more.
This is not just a short-term issue, although in the short term, we're going to see much more of it. In the long term, I think we're going to see much more fluidity in the way that the workforce will operate.
Homa Barami is watching it all go down and says the next 6 to 9 months will be very telling.
Having said that, I do see long-term, the volatility and the movement of people between jobs will definitely be with us. And the reason for that is that we're seeing much more volatility. We're operating in what I call a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous.
She wears a lot of hats, and all of those hats work together in her roles. She's an educator and researcher at UC Berkeley's Haas School of Business, and she consults business leaders about people and organization.
In the long term, companies have to rethink how they organize themselves, how they structure teams, how they recruit people, and so on. So a lot of interesting times ahead of us.
Interesting indeed, says Jess Ponce III. He's a media consultant, author, and branding expert who's helping people in Los Angeles and around the world find their words and their professional presence.
I like to look at it as a reimagining. We are reimagining the way that we want to live, and that includes the way that we want to work. We don't want to go back to the way things were in our hearts because we've experienced a reality outside of it.
Which brings us to the next big question of how exactly are you supposed to do that?
So what I recommend is that people make a list, almost like a chart. First of all, what am I doing right now that I really love doing? On the second column, write down the things that you don't enjoy doing.
Then he says, connect the dots to come up with new possibilities for yourself.
People are more confident than they've ever been. And to me, there are two markers to confidence. The first one is to know your subject matter, and the second is its value.
The good thing, he says, is we've all had the past 18 months or so to think about what we want. Now we just need to make it happen carefully.
The first thing is not to react, because any decision that's based on emotion is never going to produce the results you think they are. So pause, sit for a moment, and evaluate what's going on.
And Homa says, while you're evaluating, think like an entrepreneur.
Which means you have to take calculated risks. You have to do a lot of experimentation. You have to be very intentional about your vision for success. You also have to really think about the choices and the trade-offs that you make.
I'm Stephanie Stone, reporting.
Couples looking to conceive may have questions about COVID-19 vaccination and how it can impact fertility. Now, one small study has good news for hopeful dads-to-be. It shows the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines don't affect a man's fertility. While the vaccine causes no harm to male fertility, the COVID-19 virus is another story. Doctors say additional research shows COVID-19 infection or the immune response the infection triggers may interfere with a man's ability to produce sperm for about 6 months. Another study found some men who have had COVID-19 struggle with erectile dysfunction after they've recovered. Studies are ongoing and long-term consequences of COVID-19 on male fertility are still unknown. Health officials recommend men of reproductive age take special care to avoid COVID-19 infection and adds that the best way to do that is to be vaccinated. Experts say if you have questions or concerns about COVID-19 vaccination and fertility, talk with your doctor.
And we're watching for the chance of showers and thunderstorms arriving with the sea breeze this afternoon. Otherwise, temperatures getting in the low 90s. Going to be feeling like the triple digits outside with the humidity, though. Tonight, dipping down into the lower 70s. And as you look at that 10-day forecast, we're going to keep these isolated rain chances going through the weekend. As we head into next week, though, looking like a cold front will come in. That's going to bring up those rain chances and could knock our temperatures down into the upper 80s and lower 90s.
It's not just people getting out of the house now. Their stuff is too. Americans are purging, donating or selling their old clothes and jewelry and whatever else to secondhand stores like Plato's Closet. According to a report from ThredUp and Global Data, sales in the secondhand industry are expected to double from $36 billion to $77 billion by 2025.
The pandemic froze a majority of people's wardrobes. And if you stayed at home a lot, chances are you didn't even get to touch any of your nicer clothes.
I stuck to my sweatpants and my comfy sweatshirts. I definitely wear comfier clothes more often since the pandemic.
Shopping habits also changed.
I definitely started shopping online more than in stores because of the pandemic, and so it was harder to get sizes that you know will fit you online. So some of the stuff that I gave today definitely was from missed purchases online and stuff.
Touch a flower anywhere. Across the country, charities like Goodwill are reporting an avalanche of donations as folks declutter. In Columbia, Missouri, business is booming at the Salvation Army.
Right now, they are seeing 4 times what they usually get in an average month lately.
With higher sales than average than in previous years.
It's a great problem. It's a wonderful problem. So we were very ecstatic about that. But the trend hasn't stopped. We're still seeing a lot of donations coming in.
Because of the increase, they've had to stop or limit donations.
When we do get that increase in donations, it's wonderful, but where are we going to put that while we're trying to process?
Hey, if I faint or anything, don't call an ambulance. Give me a few minutes, I'll come back to you.
Most often, if you find this Cincinnati woman on the floor exhausted, it's because she just climbed a 50-foot rock wall. What's even more impressive is Caroline typically uses a wheelchair to get around.
People like to put labels of like overcoming the disability, but I like to look at it as living with my disability.
After training for 10 months, she entered the National Paraclimbing Championships and placed 4th. She says her goal is to prove that people can live happy lives with disabilities and still compete at a high level.
I think it's a great experience to see another world.
Virtual reality is helping people with disabilities get active during the pandemic. The Sports Ability Park is a new way of getting outdoors while staying safe indoors. The VR headsets also help people with disabilities feel included.
First time I did, I was in this big park and it was so cool because I've never done it before.
Our riders are experiencing an adventure that was either impossible for them their entire life, or it was taken away from them.
An organization in Colorado is making outdoor adventures possible for those who are unable to walk on their own. The Lockwood Foundation takes riders on trails and up mountains, with help from volunteers in the community.
And we realized that through technology and community, it actually is a very open world.